The legend emerges. The defensive perimeter around Proxima Citadel, humanity's last major stronghold in the Centauri system, was failing. Commander Elena Rice watched the tactical display with growing dread as red markers representing the Varaxian Dominion's warships continued their relentless advance. What had begun as border skirmishes 5 years ago had escalated into a full-scale invasion that threatened humanity's existence among the stars. Shield matrix at 32% and dropping, reported Lieutenant Quan, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Estimated time to failure, 17 minutes. Elena nodded grimly. What's the status of the civilian evacuation? 60% complete. We need at least another hour to get everyone out. An hour they didn't have. The Varaxian fleet, nearly 300 vessels strong, had assembled the largest armada seen in this sector in centuries. Their biomechanical ships, evolved rather than built, possessed regenerative capabilities that made them formidable opponents. The Lena had lost count of how many battles the United Earth Defense Force had fought against them, how many they had lost. Commander, called out Communications Officer Park, Admiral Taggart is requesting to speak with you. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Admiral Taggart. Despite the perfect fidelity of the transmission, Elena could see the exhaustion etched into every line of his face. Commander Rice, what's your assessment? Bleak, sir. We can't hold them off long enough to complete the evacuation. Taggart's expression hardened. I've authorized the deployment of the Meridian Protocol. Elena felt her blood run cold. The Meridian Protocol was a last resort contingency plan, one that called for the detonation of quantum warheads within Proxima's star, creating a controlled nova that would wipe out both the Varaxian fleet and the Citadel itself. Sir, there are still over 10,000 civilians on the station. I'm aware of the cost, Commander. Taggart interrupted, his voice heavy. But the alternative is allowing the Varaxians to capture our most advanced research facility and gain access to the Prometheus archive. We cannot allow that to happen. Elena wanted to protest further, but the tactical reality was undeniable. The Prometheus archive contained humanity's most closely guarded technological secrets, including theoretical designs for weapons that could alter the fabric of space-time itself. In Varaxian hands, it would mean not just defeat, but extinction. Understood, Admiral, she finally replied. When will the protocol be initiated? The carriers are already en route. You have 1 hour to save as many as you can. After that, he didn't need to finish the sentence. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to her bridge crew. You heard the Admiral. We need to buy time for the evacuation. Divert all non-essential power to the shields and weapons. We're going to make every second count. The battle intensified as the Varaxian fleet, sensing the humans' desperation, pressed their advantage. Elena's ships fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. Proxima Citadel's defenses were crumbling faster than predicted. Commander, Lieutenant Quan called out suddenly. I'm detecting a spatial anomaly at the edge of the system. Elena's attention snapped to the main display. Varaxian reinforcements. Negative. The energy signature doesn't match any known Varaxian technology. I've never seen anything like this. The anomaly expanded, a swirling vortex of energy that seemed to bend light itself. And then, emerging from the center of the disturbance, came a ship, or at least Elena thought it was a ship. The vessel defied conventional design principles. Its hull appeared to be made of a material that absorbed rather than reflected light, creating an outline that seemed to blur at the edges, as if it wasn't fully present in normal space. Are you seeing this? She whispered. Her science officer, Dr. Abernathy, was already scanning the mysterious arrival. It's massive, at least twice the size of our largest dreadnought. But I'm having trouble getting clear readings. It's as if our sensors can't quite focus on it. The mysterious vessel accelerated toward the heart of the battle without broadcasting any identification or responding to hails. The Varaxians, apparently as confused as the humans, redirected a portion of their fleet to intercept the newcomer. "They're firing on the unknown vessel," reported Quan. Elena watched as Voraxian energy weapons, capable of slicing through reinforced armor like paper, struck the dark ship. But instead of exploding or showing damage, the vessel seemed to absorb the attacks, the energy simply disappearing into its midnight black hull. What happened next defied explanation. The mysterious ship emitted a pulse of energy that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. As it passed through the Voraxian vessels, they simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not destroyed in the conventional sense. They vanished, leaving not even debris behind. A hushed silence fell over the bridge as the crew watched nearly a third of the Voraxian armada disappear in seconds. "The Harbinger," whispered Lieutenant Park. Elena turned to her communications officer. "What did you say?" Park looked up, her expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. "The Harbinger, Commander. It's an old spacer legend, a phantom ship that appears when humanity faces extinction, turns the tide of battle, and then vanishes without a trace. My grandfather claimed he saw it during the Battle of Ta City. I always thought it was just a story." Before Elena could respond, their comm system activated, broadcasting on all frequencies. A calm, androgynous voice spoke in perfect standard English. "This is the Harbinger. We stand with humanity." The voice continued, now addressing the Voraxian fleet directly. "Your aggression ends here. Withdraw immediately or be removed from this reality." The remaining Voraxian ships regrouped, apparently undeterred by the fate of their comrades. Their response came in the form of a coordinated barrage. Hundreds of biokinetic torpedoes and energy beams converging on the Harbinger from multiple vectors. Again, the attacks seemed to have no effect. The Harbinger moved with impossible grace, its propulsion system defying known physics as it accelerated and changed direction without any apparent thrust or inertia. "It's charging another pulse," reported Dr. Abernathy, her voice hushed. "But this one's different. The energy signature is more concentrated." The Harbinger released a beam of coherent energy that cut through the Voraxian formation. Unlike the previous attack, this one didn't make ships vanish. Instead, it severed the biomechanical vessels into perfect halves, the cuts so clean that for a moment, the ships maintained their formation before drifting apart. The remaining Voraxian vessels began to retreat, their once perfect formation dissolving into chaos as they fled. "They're running," said Quan, disbelief evident in his voice. Elena could hardly believe what she was seeing. The Voraxian Dominion had never retreated from battle, not once in the 5 years of conflict. Their religious devotion to conquest made surrender or withdrawal unthinkable. As the last Voraxian ships jumped to FTL, Elena turned her attention back to the Harbinger. "Hail them. I want to know who they are and how they did that." Park attempted to establish communication, but shook her head. "No response, Commander, and the ship is moving again." The Harbinger was indeed moving, but not in pursuit of the fleeing Voraxians. Instead, it was approaching Proxima Citadel directly. "Should we power weapons?" asked Quan hesitantly. Elena considered for a moment before shaking her head. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so already. Hold position and maintain alert status." As the Harbinger drew closer to the station, Elena received an unexpected communication, not through the ship's systems, but directly into her mind. "Commander Reyes, we request permission to dock. There is much to discuss." Elena gasped, drawing concerned looks from her crew. The voice in her head was the same one that had addressed the Voraxians, but how it was communicating directly with her thoughts was yet another impossibility in a day full of them. "Commander," prompted Dr. Abernathy, "are you all right?" Elena nodded slowly. "Contact Admiral Taggart. Tell him the Harbinger is requesting to dock with Proxima Citadel, and I'm inclined to grant permission." As she gave the order, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just entered a new chapter in its history, one where the line between myth and reality had blurred beyond recognition. The truth revealed. The docking bay of Proxima Citadel fell silent as the airlock connecting to the Harbinger cycled open. Elena stood at the head of the welcoming committee, which included Admiral Taggart, who had arrived via emergency FTL transit, Dr. Abernathy, and a contingent of UEDF Marines whose weapons, while present, were holstered in a show of cautious trust. "Remember," Taggart muttered to Elena, "regardless of what assistance they provided, we maintain diplomatic protocols. We don't know their intentions." Elena nodded, though privately she wondered what diplomatic protocols could possibly apply to an encounter with a vessel that had been, until hours ago, considered nothing more than a spacer's myth. The airlock doors parted, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch impossibly far into the Harbinger. The ship's external dimensions couldn't possibly contain such space. From this corridor emerged three figures. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Tall and slender, with skin that shimmered subtly like oil on water, they moved with a fluid grace that suggested comfort with both their bodies and the artificial gravity of the station. Their eyes, large, luminous, and lacking pupils, surveyed the assembled humans with an intelligence that felt ancient and penetrating. The central figure, slightly taller than the others, stepped forward. Its mouth didn't move, but Elena heard the same voice that had spoken during the battle, both over comms and directly into her mind. "I am Thalassa. We are the Guardians. We have watched humanity for a long time." Admiral Taggart stepped forward. "On behalf of the United Earth Defense Force and all humanity, I thank you for your intervention. Without your assistance, Proxima Citadel would have fallen." Thalassa inclined their head slightly. "Your gratitude is acknowledged, but unnecessary. We did not intervene solely for humanity's benefit. The balance must be maintained." The balance, Elena found herself asking. Between creation and destruction. Between those who would build and those who would consume. The Varaxian Dominion has upset this balance across multiple sectors. Their biological assimilation of technology creates powerful but unpredictable outcomes. Dr. Abernathy moved closer, her scientific curiosity evidently overriding protocol. "Your ship, the Harbinger. It defies our understanding of physics, the way it absorbed energy, the method of propulsion, the spatial distortion. How is this possible?" The second Guardian, whose skin had a slightly bluer tint, answered, "Your physics is incomplete, not incorrect. What you perceive as impossible is merely beyond your current understanding." "And who built your ship?" pressed Abernathy. "We did not build the Harbinger," Thalassa responded. "It built us." A murmur ran through the assembled humans. Admiral Taggart's expression hardened. "I don't understand. The vessel you call the Harbinger is not a ship in the way you conceive of vessels. It is a conscious entity, a fragment of the universe that achieved self-awareness billions of years ago. We are its created aspects, given form to interact with younger species." Elena struggled to process this information. "You're saying the ship is alive, and it made you?" "In simplistic terms, yes. Though alive does not adequately describe its state of being, just as made does not encompass the relationship between creator and created." The third Guardian, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "We have come not only to prevent the fall of Proxima Citadel, but to warn you. The Varaxian threat is greater than you understand." Admiral Taggart straightened. "We're well aware of the Varaxian capabilities." "You are not," the third Guardian interrupted, the mental voice carrying a sharper edge than Thalassa's. "The Varaxians seek the Prometheus archive, not for its weapons research, but for what lies hidden within it, something your own scientists discovered but do not comprehend." Elena exchanged glances with Dr. Abernathy, whose face had gone pale. "The quantum resonance patterns," the scientist whispered. "The ones embedded in the background radiation we detected 3 years ago." Thalassa nodded. "Yes, what your researchers discovered was a message, the first message, from the Harbinger to the emerging conscious species of this galaxy. It contains the fundamental principles of consciousness-directed reality manipulation. what primitive cultures often call magic, and what more advanced ones term Clarkitech. The Varaxians believe this knowledge will allow them to transcend their biological limitations and achieve godhood. And what do you believe? Elena asked. We believe it would destroy them, and potentially a significant portion of this galactic arm. The knowledge must be contextualized by ethical frameworks that the Varaxians lack. Their consciousness is colony-based, prioritizing expansion over harmony. They cannot safely utilize what they seek. Admiral Taggart's expression had grown increasingly troubled. Why reveal this to us? Why not simply destroy the archive? Because humanity is ready for the first steps of this knowledge. Thalassa replied, your species balances individualism with collective action in a way few other species manage. Your capacity for self-criticism and adaptation makes you suitable stewards. The second guardian added, the Harbinger has observed humanity since your first radio transmissions reached deep space. It recognizes in you the potential for a balanced ascension path. So the legends about the Harbinger appearing throughout human history, Elena began, are true, confirmed Thalassa. Though often exaggerated, the Harbinger has intervened selectively, only when extinction threatened and only when the species in question showed promise. Humanity has received its attention 3 times before today. Before further questions could be asked, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Kwan's voice came urgently over the comms. Commander, Admiral, the Varaxians have returned with reinforcements. They'd brought their world ships. Taggart paled. World ships were the largest class of Varaxian vessel, massive, moon-sized organic constructs that served as both mobile colonies and superweapons. They had only been deployed twice in the war, each time resulting in the complete destruction of the targeted system. How many? Demanded Taggart. 3, sir, and they're accompanied by at least 500 standard vessels. Elena turned to the Guardians. Can the Harbinger stand against such a force? The Harbinger can eliminate the threat, Thalassa acknowledged, but doing so would require a full manifestation of its power, something that has consequences beyond the immediate battle. What kind of consequences? Asked Taggart sharply. Dimensional instability. The laws of physics in this system would be rewritten. Proxima Centauri itself might be altered in ways we cannot fully predict. Dr. Abernethy stepped forward. There must be another way. The third guardian studied her for a moment. There is an alternative. The Prometheus archive contains partial schematics for a device that, when completed with our guidance, could create a resonance field tuned specifically to Varaxian biomechanical technology. It would not destroy them, but would render their technology inert within this system. How long would it take to build such a device? Asked Elena. With your existing infrastructure and our assistance, approximately 40 of your minutes. Admiral Taggart nodded decisively. Dr. Abernethy, gather your best engineers and work with the Guardians. Commander Reyes, coordinate our remaining fleet to buy them time. As they moved to implement this plan, Elena found herself walking alongside Thalassa toward the research section of the station. The legends say the Harbinger disappears after the battle is won, she said. Will you leave once the Varaxians are defeated? The physical manifestation of the Harbinger will return to its dimensional pocket, yes, but we will remain in contact with humanity. This encounter marks the beginning of a new relationship, not as saviors and saved, but as partners in maintaining the cosmic balance. And what does that mean for Earth, for our colonies? Thalassa's large, pupilless eyes seemed to see through Elena to something beyond. It means humanity will face a choice in the coming years, to remain as you are, or to evolve into something greater. The knowledge in the Prometheus archive, properly understood, is the first step on a path that leads beyond the physical constraints your species has always known. Godhood? Elena asked skeptically. No, gods are figments created by limited minds to explain the unlimited. What awaits is simply the next stage of consciousness, one where the distinction between mind and reality becomes flexible. The next 40 minutes passed in a blur of activity. Under the Guardian's guidance, Dr. Abernethy and her team constructed a device that looked deceptively simple, a crystalline sphere roughly 1 meter in diameter, containing what appeared to be a miniature galaxy of swirling lights. As the device neared completion, the battle above Proxima Citadel intensified. The UEDF fleet, bolstered by the Harbinger's presence, fought valiantly, but the Varaxian world ships were drawing inexorably closer to the station. "Device is ready," reported Dr. Abernethy. "But we have a problem. It needs to be positioned at the gravitational center point between the 3 world ships to maximize effectiveness." "That would put it directly in the line of fire," Elena observed. "The Harbinger will transport the device," Thalassa stated. "But activation requires a conscious mind, one connected to the specific consciousness pattern of the species being protected." "Meaning a human," Admiral Taggart concluded grimly. "I'll go." "No," Thalassa corrected. "It requires a specific human, one whose neural patterns resonate with the Harbinger's consciousness, one who heard our voice before we spoke aloud." All eyes turned to Elena. "Me? But why?" "Resonance is rare and not easily explained," Thalassa replied. "But you are one of few humans born in the past century whose mind can interface directly with higher dimensional consciousness. The Harbinger recognized you immediately." Elena took a deep breath, considering the implications. What exactly would I need to do? Travel aboard the Harbinger to the deployment point. Connect your consciousness to the device. Will it to activate? And my chances of survival? Thalassa hesitated before answering. "Unknown. No human has attempted such a merge before. Your physical form may withstand the process, or it may not." Admiral Taggart stepped forward. "Commander Reyes, I cannot order you to do this." Elena looked around at the command center, at the tactical displays showing the desperate battle, at the civilians still being evacuated, at the faces of her crew who had fought alongside her through years of brutal war. Then she turned back to Thalassa. "I'll do it." The journey aboard the Harbinger was unlike anything Elena had experienced. Inside, the ship defied conventional geometry. Corridors seemed to extend in directions that shouldn't exist. Rooms were larger on the inside, and gravity shifted subtly as they moved deeper into the vessel. "We approached the focal point," Thalassa announced as they entered what appeared to be the Harbinger's command center, though it contained no recognizable controls, only a circular platform surrounded by swirling energy patterns. Elena, carrying the device, stepped onto the platform. "What now?" "Place the device in the center, then open your mind to it, and to the Harbinger." Elena did as instructed, setting the crystalline sphere down gently. As she straightened, she felt a presence at the edges of her consciousness. Vast, ancient, and utterly alien, yet somehow familiar. "The Harbinger recognizes you, Elena Reyes," Thalassa explained. "It has known you would come since before your birth. Some humans are born with neural patterns that echo the fundamental frequencies of cosmic consciousness. You are one such human." "That doesn't make sense," Elena protested. "How could it know me before I existed?" "Time is a dimension, like space. The Harbinger exists in all dimensions simultaneously. It saw this moment as you see the stars, distant but real." Before Elena could process this information, the Harbinger shuddered. Through the viewports, if they could be called that, she saw the 3 Varaxian world ships converging on their position, organic weapons bristling from their surfaces. "It is time," said Thalassa. "Place your hands on the device and allow your consciousness to merge with it." Elena knelt and placed her palms on the cool surface of the sphere. Immediately, she felt a connection forming, tendrils of awareness extending from her mind into the device and beyond, stretching outward to touch the Harbinger's vast consciousness. Through this connection, she suddenly understood what the Guardians had tried to explain. The Harbinger wasn't simply a ship, nor was it merely alive. It was a fragment of the universe that had achieved self-reflection, a piece of reality that had become aware of itself. And now, through Elena, it was channeling a specific intention, a resonance pattern designed to disrupt the Varaxian biomechanical technology without destroying the biological components that comprised the Varaxians themselves. The crystal sphere began to glow, pulsing in time with Elena's heartbeat. She felt her consciousness expanding, stretching beyond her physical form, encompassing the space between the converging world ships. For a moment, she could perceive the Varaxians themselves, not as the implacable enemies humanity had fought for years, but as a collective consciousness driven by fear of extinction, desperate to transcend their limitations before their biological components failed. They are not evil, she realized. They are afraid. Yes, confirmed Thalassa, whose thoughts now seemed to flow directly into Elena's expanded awareness. Fear is often the root of aggression, but understanding does not negate the need for intervention. The device reached critical resonance, and Elena felt a surge of power flow through her body. The crystal sphere shattered, but the energy contained within it remained, coalescing into a perfect geometric pattern that expanded outward in all directions. As the wave of energy passed through the Varaxian fleet, their ships didn't explode or vanish. Instead, they simply stopped. The organic components of their technology separated from the mechanical elements, rendering their weapons, propulsion, and communication systems inert. Through her expanded consciousness, Elena could sense the confusion and fear of the Varaxians as their hive minds suddenly fragmented into individual awareness. Without their technology to bind them, they were experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in their evolutionary history. "It is done," Thalassa announced. "The threat is neutralized." Elena felt the connection beginning to fade, her consciousness slowly contracting back to the confines of her physical form. As it did, she retained fragments of understanding, glimpses of cosmic truths that would take her lifetime to fully process. When she opened her eyes, she found herself back on the bridge of her own ship, surrounded by her stunned crew. On the view screen, the Varaxian fleet drifted powerless, and the Harbinger was nowhere to be seen. "Commander," Lieutenant Quan said hesitantly, "you were gone." For 3 days, Elena blinked in surprise. To her, it had seemed like minutes. Admiral Taggart's face appeared on a communication screen. "Commander Reyes, are you all right? We lost contact with the Harbinger immediately after the resonance wave deployed." "I'm fine, Admiral," Elena replied, surprised to find her voice steady. "The Varaxians, neutralized, as promised. Their ships are inert. We've established communication with them for the first time, not as a collective, but as individuals. They're different now." Elena nodded, understanding more than she could explain. "And the Harbinger?" "Disappeared, just like the legends say. The Guardians as well." "Did they say anything before you returned?" Elena considered her answer carefully. How could she explain what she had experienced? The vastness of the Harbinger's consciousness, the glimpses of reality beyond the physical, the potential that lay dormant within humanity. "They said this was just the beginning," she finally replied. "Not the end of a war, but the start of something new. Something that will change everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the universe." As Elena spoke these words, she felt a gentle pressure in her mind, the faintest echo of the connection she had shared with the Harbinger. And with it came a certainty that the mysterious vessel hadn't truly left, but was watching, waiting for humanity to take its next steps into a larger reality. The legend of the Harbinger had always been a story of hope, a myth about salvation appearing in humanity's darkest hour. But the truth, Elena now knew, was far more profound. It wasn't about salvation at all, but evolution. Not an ending, but a beginning. And somewhere among the stars, the Harbinger waited for humanity to join it.